A new Scarlet and Violet trailer finally announced the different paths we can take to progress the story. We of course already knew about the classic gym challenge that was available to us, but we also learned of the Starfall Street Path, where we will take on gangs of rebellious students to fight the bosses of the nefarious Team Star as they ride upon their customized Starmobiles. This is not what we're talking about today, but I just want to say that this looks insane, and that engine is 100% a Pokemon. The official art on the website pretty much confirms it. Analysis of that, though, will have to wait for another video, as today I want to look at the third path, the Path of Legends, where we'll be escorting our upperclassman, Arven, presumably to the towers dotted around Paldea in search for the Herba Mystica. Incredible flora said to possess the capability to fully heal a Pokemon when eaten, and Arven intends to utilize them to create the greatest Pokemon recipes the world has ever seen. Unfortunately for him, he sucks at battling, which is why he needs us to help fend off the Titan Pokemon that defend the plants. I knew this was going to be the path that interested me the most from the very start. After all, anything called the Path of Legends is sure to be steeped in lore and history, which, in case you couldn't tell, is kind of what I really love about the Pokemon franchise. I was surprised to find that the goal of the path was to simply find a mystical herb, but after research, I now know that I probably shouldn't have been. You see, neither Spain nor Portugal, the two countries in the Iberian Peninsula that the Paldea region is based on, would be what they are today were it not for exploration in search of herbs and spices. From the fall of the Byzantine Empire to the discovery of America, allow me to explain how simple seasoning changed the world. Quick note, I'm going to be talking about the spice trade in this video, and some of you may wish to point out that the Herba Mystica is more likely a herb than a spice. But considering that turmeric, a very common spice, comes from a plant that is classified as a herb, and that the most common spice, black pepper, is actually neither a spice nor a herb, and is in fact a berry, let's leave the semantics at the door. Plus, in the medieval times we're talking about, even sugar was considered a spice, so just go with it. By the 15th century, spice trade was well established between Western Europe and India, where most of the spices were grown. At the start of the century, they were transported overland across what is known as the Silk Road. As well as spices, trade goods like silk, gold, horses, and slaves were transported across the 6,000-kilometer route. The Silk Road stretched all the way from China to North Africa and Turkey, though at the time those last two were under the rule of the Eastern Roman Empire, otherwise known as the Byzantine Empire. From the city of Alexandria, in modern-day Egypt, the goods would be shipped over the Mediterranean Sea to Rome and then out to the rest of Europe. It's important to note that during this time, spices were close to equivalent in value to things like gold and silver. Well-spiced food was a sign of wealth amongst upper classes, and dishes of the time often resembled more like Indian cuisine at the wealthiest tables. So, when the Ottoman Empire began to take over large swaths of the trade route, and eventually overthrew the capital of the Byzantine Empire, Constantinople, in 1453, the West was cut off from their culinary delicacies. At the time, though, herbs and spices weren't simply used in cooking. Many medical practitioners utilized them for their healing properties. You see, at the time, people's understanding of how the human body functioned wasn't as sophisticated as it is today. Most practitioners still worked on the theory of the four humors. The four humors is a medical theory first suggested by Hippocrates. That states that the human body consists of four fluids: blood, yellow bile, black bile, and phlegm. This was later expanded on by Claudius Galen, who brought forth the idea that in order to remain healthy, the human body must have these four humors in balance, with each of the four humors having ties to an element and a state of existence between hot and cold or wet and dry. If a person were to fall ill, you could recognize the state of the illness and try to counteract it by increasing the opposite humor. As an example, if somebody had a cold and was rather phlegmy, they would be in a wet, cold state. To improve their health, you would need to increase their amount of yellow bile by giving them something dry and hot. That's where spices came in. So if you ever find yourself with a cold, simply eat some spicy food and sweat it out. It's science. Bad science, but science nonetheless. The other benefit to spices was that, as well as improving the taste of food, they were preserving it for longer. After all, what we experience as spice is in fact a chemical produced by the plant to deter insects and small creatures from eating. It also works at killing off bacteria that would decompose the plant. This same chemical, once applied to meat, could also stave off similar bacteria from growing on it for several days. This is the exact same way that medieval people would use salt. However, salt is a much more overpowering taste, and that's why you'll find peppered steak rather than salted steak. So, as you can see, it was imperative for those living in Western Europe to find a way around the Turks to once again gain trade access with India for their spices. This kick-started the Age of Discovery. In 1492, a little-known historical figure called Christopher Columbus suggested the idea of reaching India by sailing west. He initially pitched this idea to the King of Portugal, who laughed in his face. You see, the reason Columbus thought he could get to India by sailing west was because he was taken in by a conspiracy theory that the world was much smaller than everybody else believed. But King John II was having none of it. Fortunately for him, he was able to convince the monarchs of Spain, King Ferdinand II and Isabella I, to fund his voyage. As we now know, he found neither India nor the Moluccas Islands that he was looking for, and instead found a new world that just so happened to already be inhabited by indigenous people. Columbus returned with no spice, but had with him in tow chili peppers and, slaves. So, you know, that was worthwhile, right? History. A few years later, in 1498, an explorer by the name of Vasco de Gama was actually able to get funding from the Portuguese king to make sail to India, but this time by rounding the south of Africa, around what is now referred to as the Cape of Good Hope. I won't get into too much of the nitty-gritty of the history here, because there was a lot of religious conflict and more people stolen from their homelands, but within a few years, Portugal had established a seafaring trade route between themselves and India to achieve a monopoly on the spice trade. So, with all that historical knowledge, is it any wonder that Game Freak would make the path most likely to be steeped in lore and history of the region revolve around herbs and spices? The Titan Pokemon could even be a metaphor for the immense trials and tribulations those early explorers went through in order to attain their spices. Though, that might be stretching. One last thing I want to note. There seems to be a lot of references to cooking in the marketing material we've received for this generation so far. We've already talked about Arven striving to cook new dishes, but there's also references to the oil produced by Smoliv and how it's not suitable for consumption. Or Lechonk, who searches out fresh berries. Grafaiai spit paint, changing color dependent on the berries it eats. And Fido, both being bred and being utilized in the making of bread with its yeasty breath. Could this generation be bringing back and expanding upon the ability to cook in the wild to feed your Pokemon, similar to the curry mechanic we saw in Sword and Shield? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts on that and whether you think the Path of Legends is drawing inspiration from the spice trade in the comments below, because that's going to do it for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll join me again on the next one. But until then, we'll catch you later. Continuing to make these videos would not be possible without the help from our channel members, and especially our Mega Tier members. Thank you.